Hey everybody, welcome to the weekly news recap for the 18th, 23rd of November, 2024. So some administrative things first. My PC basically shit itself mid last week, so I am still kind of getting everything back up to speed, so OBS might be a bit strange, maybe the microphone might sound a little bit weird, all of that kind of stuff. And I haven't even checked how game capture works and that kind of thing, so hopefully this goes okay, but I guess we'll find out. Anyway, other than that, during the week, we had... Okay, I can see Stream Elements is still refreshing itself, that kind of thing. Alright, anyway, we'll figure it out. So, during the week, there was a Mix Fall Showcase. The Mix is like this... It's Indie Exchange is the INDX. I'm not sure what M is, but anyway, it's a bunch of indie games shown off. It's in partnership with things like IGN and Twitch and a couple of other things. Anyway, this is the landing page for Steam, as a lot of the games are available on PC. I think pretty much everything that was shown off is available or will eventually be available on PC. Anyway, there's about 50 games. I'm not going to go through all of them because that will take a long time. It's like a 2.5 hour video. There's a full VOD of the live stream over on the Mix website as well, but I think it's IGN also has a hosting of it as well. Anyway, I'm gonna just pick out a couple of games that I thought looked interesting, some we haven't seen before, and some that we have seen before that have gotten release dates and that kind of thing. So anyway, we're gonna start with Artis Impact. I think that's how it's pronounced. Why are you not playing? Play. Again, a lot of my extensions aren't working, and this is anyway. Lots of things have to go on. Anyway. So Artis Impact, it's got this kind of, as you can see, sort of retro pixely look to it. The thing that really interested me a lot about it is that the trailer kind of starts as this sort of like wholesome, nice, cozy type game. But the characters, design doesn't really fit with that. And you'll find out why kind of later on in the trailer. I'm just going to skip to it. This has a lot of Nier to it. This has a lot of Nier Automata, particularly to it. Not just the robots and the black and white and that kind of thing. There's got a lot of the same kind of Nier motifs. I do like the sort of diorama setup they have for some of the combat. I don't know if the whole game is going to be like that or anything. This is still very much an announcement type thing, but I'm very much here for its aesthetic. Like that shot there is amazing. Anyway, that's Artis Impact, coming next year at some point. PC only for now. We don't know if there'll be a console or anything like that. Blightstone. Mute. Blightstone will be a kind of isometric ARPG, so Diablo. But it's got a bit more. I think it's going to be like a turn-based tactics type thing. So this is all in-game. Like, none of this is cutscene. I think it looks really, really nice. It does have a bit of a Darkest Dungeon look to it. There's even a voiceover in this trailer that might actually be... Actually, no, it can't be the Darkest Dungeon guy because he's dead. But it sure fucking sounds like him. Anyway, the gist of the game is you have this kind of crystal. You can see that they're surrounding there. You are ferrying it. So it is like it's going to be an escort mission, maybe the game. Who knows? But there is definitely a roguelike element to it because the game is expecting that you are going to die constantly. But you get better as things go on. I think the rest of this trailer is just your party getting wiped out. TPK every time. Hopefully you get fucking stronger, because you're getting annihilated in all of these. Anyway, Blightstone, again, coming at some point. Maybe next year, who knows. The time I have left. Okay, so we have actually seen this one before. But it was a very kind of concept kind of trailer. It wasn't really showing off too much of the gameplay. They do have a little bit more gameplay now. I'm a real sucker for the black and white and red color schemes. I really like them, and they are terrible for people with color issues for accessibility. It's just like, I don't know how they ever adapt those kind of games, but they look real good. It's unfortunate. Anyway, there is now a demo available for the time I have left, and they are also launching their Kickstarter. It's potentially they have already launched their Kickstarter by the time you're watching this. At time of broadcast, they have not, but by the time you actually get around to watching this, it's possible they have. Anyway, it looks pretty good. I have not had a chance to play the demo. It is downloading currently. Actually, I've paused the download because that fucks with the bandwidth, but eventually I will get there. Yeah, it's looking really impressive. Anyway, there's another game that has this black, white, and red motif, and even has the white-haired protagonist kind of thing, which is Other Side. It's a tactical thing where you are. I don't think they're clones. I think they're your daughters or something. That is like a team of them. I really meaning to get back to that because again, I really like the color scheme, but I think I was playing too many tactical things at the time, and I needed a bit more variety. Anyway, that's the time I have left. I think there is some element of a Majora's Mask time rewindy thing to the game. Anyway, Kickstarter possibly is already ongoing. Otherwise, there is a demo available if you want to check it out for yourselves on PC. Lovish. Okay, so this is kind of interesting one. From the gameplay side of things, just think it's got a bit of a Shovel Knight element to it. But the game kind of story is kind of interesting because it's kind of starting off Final Fantasy, like the very first Final Fantasy. But it's kind of subverting the motif a little bit in that your hero character wants the princess for themselves and has essentially stranded the rest of his friends and the party outside of the castle. So you're on your own and you are rescuing the princess for maybe not the best reasons. Maybe it's a bad thing. Maybe it's Braid all over again. But the gameplay does have a bit of Shovel Knight elements to it. You know, it's very retro, almost 8-bit element. It's obviously not 8-bit art, but it has that kind of gameplay style to it. It does seem like it's going to be a kind of procedurally generated thing. There are a lot of different events that happen during gameplay. It turns into Vampire Survivors at some point. But yeah, that's Love-ish. It's from Dangan Entertainment, so you can't expect them to be a little bit, what's the word? Kooky? Like, it's definitely not going to be your pretty cliche Dungeon Delver kind of thing. Anyway, 2025. And then kind of, the next couple of trailers are mostly for games that we have already seen, but we're seeing kind of a little bit longer gameplay elements to this. So this is Mighty Rhea, or Mighty Rhea. I'm not sure how it's meant to be pronounced because there's no Y in the title. But anyway, the kind of gist of this is you're just your standard Japanese schoolgirl, school-going age student. But you know, monsters keep attacking Tokyo, so you need to do your magical girl transformation and go beat them up. And that's kind of it. It's like a sandbox setting. You're in the city, but you're also fighting these giant mechs, and sometimes they're the same size as you. Sometimes they're the size of houses and stuff like that. But it's kind of doing the... not exactly the Dragon Ball fantasy, because the Dragon Ball, the Z fighters always make sure to go fight somewhere out in the middle of nowhere so they won't injure people. But it's kind of going for that idea, I guess. It looks fun. It looks interesting. It's clearly like it's got its one gimmick and it's really just going to ham with it. But if it's a good gimmick, you know, it'll work. So we'll see how that works out for them. 2025, again, PC only. A little bit longer gameplay stuff from there. Neon Inferno is a kind of a Contra-like game. But the art style is very, very pretty. So the idea with Neon Inferno, you have two characters. This trailer is only going to be playing as the male character. There's essentially two different mode types that they show off here. So this is kind of a developer walkthrough gameplay thing. So I am going to be skipping along here. But it is a, you know, very old school shooter type thing with a few melee elements to it. But for the vast majority out, you're just going to be shooting constantly. But one kind of interesting thing they do have going for them is that there is a certain element of 3D to the game. So the guy in the helicopter is technically not above you. He's kind of in the background. They do a better job of showcasing it here later on. So in this kind of area, you have those guys in the background on the hologram park sign that you have to take cover from because they're firing at you. There's a boss character, I think, or mid-boss they fight here as well. It kind of showcases a little bit better. So you have this guy in the background with this big Mega Man cannon type thing. So you're trying to avoid him while at the same time avoiding his friend over here who's in the foreground with you. So it's an interesting gimmick. Again, as I say, if you have a good gimmick, Just go with it. You know, you don't need to have many weird things. I don't remember which game developer said it. I think there was a game director that basically said, if you want to make a good game, just go with one really good gimmick or like 2 or 3 okay gimmicks. But never just go with 100 of them or just throw them all at the wall because you won't be able to do it. Anyway, here's the other type of gameplay, which is just driving, but it's still the same kind of idea. You have some characters that are on the same line as you and some characters that aren't. Anyway, Neon Inferno is... well, I think pretty much at this point everything is next year. Did it actually give a release date? Doesn't look like it. It's just wishlist. Just wishlist. Okay, so maybe not even next year, but probably. Ruffy and the Riverside, or Roofy and the Riverside, Q1 2025, so next year again, but early next year. It's coming to, as you can see, pretty much everything. So I'm really digging Ruffy's presentation because it has a really old school, almost PS1 vibe to it. PS1 would never look this good, but it kind of has that feeling to it. Maybe almost an N64 vibe. So again, the gimmick for Ruffy is he can copy things in the environment and then overlay them onto other objects. So I think there's a spot here where it's later on. I skipped ahead too far. There's a spot here where he kind of copies the rock face here and overlays it onto the tree, so the tree can't move anymore. It's no longer flexible, and this thing falls out of the tree because, hey, he falls out because it's not flexible anymore. You get this climbing vine element and overlay that onto the waterfall, and now you can climb the waterfall, right? So there's going to be some brain-breaking things, I think, that you can possibly do with this kind of gimmick. So I'm interested to see how far they take it. So again, another interesting one gimmick, I'm here for it kind of thing. The rest of this trailer kind of shows off a few more of the biomes. I'm just going to go ahead and see if there is a trailer or a release date or release window. Oh, we already had it, yeah. Q1 2025. Okay, next up, these are again some games we've seen before, but now have release dates. So this is Overthrown, which kind of presents itself as a bit of a farm village management kind of thing, and then also a kind of like horde slash 'em up kind of thing. So, you know, this is your kingdom, you're trying to manage it and keep, you know, things moving, the wheel of industry and all that kind of stuff, and then you're getting randomly attacked by whatever creatures that want you to stop doing that. So pretty basic so far. One of the more interesting things for Overthrown is that your character is way too powerful. They have, like, you know, super speed, they have incredible strength, you can see them picking up the like trees and shit. But you can also just pick up buildings and throw them to another location if you'd rather, you know, have them somewhere else. As you can see, most of the vegetables and stuff are huge. We expect you to, like, pick them up and you know, if you want to do like mining or smithing or stuff like that, you're expected to pick up the ore and like hurl it into the furnace and that kind of thing. So it's got that kind of idea of sort of playing, you know, picking things up and not like eating them across the field and that kind of thing. Excuse me. So early access, I think it said there December 5th, and then probably 1.0 will be some stage next year. Steam early access and Xbox early access, effectively. Anyway, moving on. Standalone is a side-scrolling slash 'em up type thing. I played a little bit of this during it was a couple of Next Fests ago now, and I think the demo is still available if you want to try it out yourselves. But you are this sheep who is trying to save his sheep people from all of these wolves. It's a little bit on the nose, yeah, I know. But as you can see, there is a massive variety of combos, a massive variety of attacks, weapons, this kind of thing. And even playing the demo, yeah, there's so many different things you can pick up, different attacks, different modifiers you can put on those attacks, and a lot of the attacks chain into other attacks. In fact, the vast majority of them all chain together, so you can get some ridiculous combos going, and some ridiculous synergies if you get the rest if you get a good drop and that kind of thing. There is a roguelike element to it, and again, that sometimes puts off people. I enjoyed my time with the demo anyway, so hopefully it turns out okay next year, again, at some stage. Last one from the mix is Completely Stretchy, which is... I don't know how to describe Completely Stretchy. It's essentially first-person Spider-Man, I suppose. Which you're on this planet with all these weird-looking guys, and you're the most weird-looking, because now you're very stretchy and blue. And nobody knows why. You've had some sort of science experiment gone wrong. And now you are very, very stretchy. Hello, blue creature. Anyway, so now you're Spider-Man, essentially. You're very wobbly, you're very, elastic and so on. So you're going to be flinging yourself around this environment, solving physics puzzles and that kind of thing. The dialogue's pretty funny from what you see in this trailer. What the actual gameplay is, I imagine it is general sandboxy foolishness. Anyway, we'll see how it works out. But again, funny, one gimmick works for me. Never try to do anything more than one gimmick, or at least two okay gimmicks. This is a release date trailer, but I didn't see a release date pop up. It's almost certainly next year, but when next year? Oh, this is one of the few that's actually coming out this year. Okay, December 12th, PC only for now. Anyway, outside of the mix, there were a couple of other updates. We're going to get to those now. Among Ashes is also getting its release date. It is later in December. Among Ashes, this is sort of cross meta game kind of thing. So you're playing a game within a game, but you're also on the internet back in the 90s inside the game kind of thing, talking to your friends, and they're talking about this game they've just downloaded and you should give it a try and so on, and then they're finding out that, hey, this game is maybe not good and it's maybe affecting the real world. That's also the game inside a game, Snake Eater. Yeah, there's some weird shit happening. I think the main game itself is more of like a first-person in Resident Evil, but it's got like various mini games mixed into it, and then there's the meta story of there's something in the house with you. Anyway, that's Among Ashes. As I said, it's December at some point, December 9th. And we have Mandragora, again, also getting a release date. Pretty sure this one's next year at some stage. Mandragora is effectively side-scrolling Dark Souls. So it is a pretty hard, pretty punishing side-scrolling combat game. There is a demo available. I don't think it's a roguelike element. I do think it's a corpse running, Dark Souls type thing. As long as you can keep whatever resources you have and you make it to the next whatever the bonfire is in this game, you can upgrade your character and so on. Variety of weapons, different people to talk to. The world is kind of horrible and so on and so forth. I like the demo, but it's pretty hard. 2D combat is just more difficult in general than 3D combat, I find. At least you can sidestep people in 3D. You can't really do that in 2D. Anyway, maybe I'm full of shit. Who knows? Mandragora, April 17th. And then last one, this is actually not a PC, or not a release date trailer. This is more of a port. So Lorelei and the Laser Eyes we did play on the channel a while ago. It is a very good puzzle game. Some really trippy, some very difficult puzzles in it as well. I did have to just give in and look up some of the solutions. But even then, some of the solutions are procedural, so an online guide may not help you in those circumstances. But I really enjoyed Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. So it is coming to PlayStation later this year. December, I think, at some point. December 3rd, so pretty soon. Okay, so Epic Games, as we do usually, the free Epic game this week was Beholder, which is this game where you're kind of spying on people in an apartment block and relaying any of that information to a totalitarian government. And then you can decide to either be nice or be not so nice about these kind of things. Hey, Banana, how you getting on? All right, monthly games, Game Pass. So Game Pass refresh for the middle of November. It's pretty good. Some pretty interesting games in it. Stalker 2 we'll talk about in a second because it is one of the new releases. Nine Sols is currently available on PC. It is, again, a side-scrolling, pretty tough game. Just think of it as a side-scrolling furry Sekiro. You'll be pretty close to what Nine Sols is. It's very good. It's been a while. Hope you're well too. Thanks, Banana. I'm mostly okay. It's my PC that's not doing so well. Anyway, Aliens Dark Descent is... I think it's XCOM. I think it's XCOM by way of Aliens. Little Kitty, Big City is a kind of sandboxy, Untitled Goose Game kind of thing, but you're a kitten. And Played Up is Overcooked, but you also manage a restaurant at the same time. So it's restaurant building and like fleshing it out, getting in more tables, getting in wait staff, that kind of thing, and then also you have to cook the food. So they're all pretty decent games. Did you fix your PC? I don't know. That's the best part, Banana. I don't know if it's fixed. Sometimes it's fixed, and then sometimes it decides, actually, I was just messing. I'm not actually fixed. Anyway, this Stalker, Nine Sol, what is... Am I right about Dark Descent? Command a squad of hardened Marines, stop the terrifying, lead your soldiers. Okay, so it's real-time combat, so it's actually closer to something like Commando rather than XCOM. But it's still like a top-down tactics kind of thing. And then Genshin Impact, I think, is launching on Xbox. It has already launched on Xbox, I think. And there are some various bonuses you can get if you also have Game Pass for that. Hope it'll be okay. Yeah, me too, because I don't have the money for... I want to get like a gaming PC. But I don't really have the money for that right now. And if I have to buy, a new one in between, that's obviously going to set me back, so... Anyway, we'll find out. Anyway, those are some of the games you can play soon. Some of them right now, also. But what if you wanted to play something right now? You can play Stalker or Stalker 2: The Heart of Chernobyl. So it's been a while since the original Stalker. I think it's like 15 years, maybe longer than that. It's probably longer than that. Anyway, excuse me. It's not just the PC that's falling apart. So Stalker is a kind of first-person survival type thing, kinda. It's got a little bit in common with Fallout in some ways. You're in Chernobyl, something's gone wrong. It's not like the historic Chernobyl where like things blew up, but you can kind of consider it the same thing. There's a bit of an SCP situation going on. And a lot of it is based around like scavenging and then also trying to avoid these kind of anomalies, and then sometimes you're forced to deal with these anomalies and so on and so forth. Stalker 2 is effectively like a modern take, if you like, on it. I'm not sure if it's actually continuing the story, if it's its own thing. Played a bit of Stalker 2, it's alright. That's kind of the vibe that I've got from the reviews. For people who were already into the Stalker thing, they're happy with it. It's a return to form. People are a little annoyed that it is kind of buggy. What I would say is it's developed in Ukraine, and Ukraine is maybe not the best location to be developing games right now, so maybe cut them a little slack. And also Stalker 1 wasn't exactly the, picture of great game health. That's also an incredibly buggy game. Anyway, I'll probably give... I think there's like a Stalker trilogy thing, bundle, that I want to give a shot first before I jump into Stalker 2, so I'll probably track that down first. Anyway, it's also difficult. I've heard that as well. Yes, it is and the original one was as well. It's a very punishing game. Some of the anomalies can just kill you immediately for instant death. You do need to very much not treat it as a run and gun, because it's not. It's a survival game. These things will kill you pretty fast. Locomotive. So this is actually a release date trailer, but they gave the release date trailer basically 2 days or something before the game was coming out, so it's also a launch trailer. Anyway, Locomotive is a pretty old school adventure game, point and click adventure game, so think Monkey Island, Grim Fandango, those kind of things. Maybe not Grim Fandango, Full Throttle possibly is a better fit, Manic Mansion. Anyway, so the idea with Locomotive is you are this lawyer who has been hired to take the will of this old dowager who is murdered on the train, and now you're trying to find out what happened, who killed her, and so on. You're a suspect yourself. And along the way, there are two other characters that you will take on the roles of. One of them is a detective who's undercover, and I think one of them is a thief, maybe? But he was not involved in the murder, I think is the idea. Anyway, available 21st November, so it's already out. The demo was good. It's well written. I think the full game itself will be pretty good as well. Last one. So, Devil Within... Satgas, or sorry, last one of new games. The rest of them are ports. This is I have a bit of a type when it comes to games. I do like side-scrolling slash 'em up type things. I admit I have a weakness for them. Anyway, that's what this is. So it's set in alternative future Korea, I think. Not entirely sure what the story is. I think you're a disgraced former lieutenant or something, and you're getting revenge on the people who tried to kill you, etc., etc. I'm mostly here for the combat kind of stuff. So playing the demo, it ran kind of shit, to be honest, on PC. To be fair, that was a Steam Deck and it was a Steam Next Fest demo. It's not really expected to have been optimized at that point, so it may have improved along the way. I don't think I'm willing to spend $30-$40 to find out if it's still running not great, so it would be nice to see if someone is playing it themselves and they could tell me, but we'll have to wait and see because I don't think anyone has started streaming it yet. Anyway, we'll see. I don't have particularly high hopes. Okay, last up then we have a couple of ports. So Sprawl, as I mentioned, I think last week, was a PC only game. It is kind of an old school first-person shooter that has some of the more modern things like wall running and time dilation and that kind of thing. We attempted to play it on the channel last year, but my microphone wasn't working at the time and I hadn't realized it wasn't working, so I had a full stream of me just talking to myself, essentially. So you won't find the VOD anywhere. If you were around for it, you may have seen the stream. And if you were on the stream and didn't tell me my mic was muted, I hate you. Anyway, I hope nobody did that. Anyway, it's a very good game. Give it a shot if you are interested. Then last up for the ports, Stray is the one game, I think, or the one platform now that I think it hasn't appeared on is the Switch, and so now it's on the Switch. We did play a little bit of Stray, I think. I'm actually not sure if I played it on the channel or not. Anyway, Stray is the cat game. You're a cat, do cat things. Slightly more linear, story-driven game than Little Kitty Big City. Little Kitty Big City is very much a sandbox, just do whatever you want kind of thing. There's a little bit of guidance for it, but in general, you're just kind of left to your own devices. Stray is a little bit more of a level-based structure to it. But yeah, you can be a cat and knock things over and trip people up and that kind of thing. It's very fun. I like Stray. I like Stray too. I liked it enough that I platinumed it, so I guess that means I like it. Sorry. I'm still dying. It's just like week 4 now of that cough, so I don't want to think about that. Just put that out of my head. Anyway, unfortunately though, it is now time to talk about the worst part of video games, the video game industry. So what started off as a rumor and was then confirmed by Kadokawa. So Sony to buy owners of Elden Ring developer FromSoft. Kadokawa Corporation is the name of the umbrella group, if you like, and one of the things that they own is From Software, who are the people who make the Dark Souls, Elden Ring, Sekiro, Bloodborne, all those kind of things. That sucks. Yeah, that's not great news, Banana. Very much not. Sony is in talks to buy Kadokawa Corporation, the people behind From Software, but they're also the people behind Spike Chunsoft, Dangan Entertainment, a bunch of other things. So that's things like Danganronpa, it's things like Master Detective Archives that we played on the channel. That's that one extremely long Let's Play that was just for me and nobody else. Anyway, So what started off as rumors, just people who were two sources familiar with the matter. The talks between the two sides are ongoing, and if successful, a deal could be signed in the coming weeks. So for people who aren't familiar with them, Kadokawa is a Japanese media conglomerate, so it's not just games. For why this would be bad. It would be bad in general for the game scene, but it would also be bad for the manga, anime, tourism, video streaming, and a bunch of other things that happen in Japan that Kadokawa are kind of a big player in. It would see a lot of consolidation in anime streaming for Sony. Sony already owned Crunchyroll, which is a big anime streaming platform. They also bought Funimation a while ago, which was another pretty big anime video stream, and killed it. Essentially bought out and killed their competitor. There were some real issues with former subscribers of Funimation because Funimation did have a policy that you would always have access to their video library and things that you could buy and download and stuff like that. And Sony, when they bought them out, basically said, lol, no, you're paying us. Yes, there's some pretty bad blood for people who enjoy anime streaming, particularly if they were on Funimation. Kadokawa has their own video anime streaming platform, so Sony could potentially buy that out and again buy it and kill it, and so on. So that's kind of the big fear in general for this. That's really what Sony is making a play for, and getting FromSoft and Dangan and so on is more like icing on the cake. What they're really going after is the anime streaming side of things, so that they can effectively be a monopoly, and it's just Crunchyroll and that's it. Nobody else gets anything. Did they buy FromSoft? They haven't bought them yet. They're in talks to do it. So on top of just From Software, there's Spike Chunsoft, who are Danganronpa, Pokemon Mystery Dungeon, Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, Acquire, who have been co-developers with Nintendo and Square Enix on a couple of things. So they've worked with them on Octopath Traveler, Triangle Strategy, and Nintendo. They worked to make Mario and Luigi Brothers Ship, but only just came out. Miyazaki should just say no. Unfortunately, he's a pretty small player in what this would be. If they were just buying FromSoft, he might have a bit more sway, but Kadokawa is several stages over his head, so he may not have that. Of course, he's fully free to just jump ship and start his own studio. I'm sure plenty of people would be dying to work on a game with him. Anyway, this kind of red highlight is kind of highlighting the scarier bit, really. It would also be another capturing of territory in the anime space with companies like Doga Kobo, ENGI, Glowvision, and many others, alongside the Anime News Network and a vast swath of Japan's manga publishing houses are all kind of under Kadokawa. So with Sony already owning Crunchyroll and Funimation, there are obviously concerns over Sony's dominance in that area. They would essentially be the only player in town. So the headline, because the Souls series, Elden Ring and so on, are probably better known for the video game development. This is a Kotaku, or a video game in general. Obviously that's the thing they're going to be talking about. If all of those games become PlayStation exclusives, this is obviously a big issue. It will effectively mean you won't see new FromSoft games on Xbox. So while Microsoft have been okay with putting stuff on third parties, pushing stuff out to Switch, pushing stuff onto PlayStation, even Sony are not doing that. So if they end up getting that kind of ownership, that would definitely be a problem. On top of that, we've seen Sony is not pretty big on releasing a lot of games, all at once. They're pretty selective on what games they allow to come out in their first party. You can see, to this year, it was 2 games, and one of them was Concord. This doesn't really count. 1 game. So yeah, they're not going to want to cannibalize sales and that kind of thing. So you'll effectively see even fewer games. This is why consolidation is bad in general. Anyway, at the time, this was a rumor. Later on in the week, Kadokawa did confirm that yes, Sony have sent an initial letter of intent to acquire the company's shares, which would effectively give them ownership, which effectively gives them full control of the company. But they have said no decision has been made. They're still in talks, so who knows? Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Hopefully it won't, but yeah, I don't know. I'd say it probably will go ahead. Anyway, The wild story behind Disco Elysium's spiritual successors, allegations, legal threats, and a USB stick. So this is from Wesley and Poole on IGN's pretty lengthy report on what's going on with the Disco Elysium guys. So last month, 3 separate Disco Elysium inspired studios announced they were making Disco Elysium spiritual successors, effectively. Kind of all out of the blue and all on the same day. So just kind of, okay, weird. It's pretty strange, but okay, let's go with it. Maybe it's a coincidence, and it's not. It's not a coincidence. 3 studios, each claiming to be carrying the Disco Elysium torch in one way or another, popped up out of nowhere on the same day. What are the chances? Well, behind the scenes, they're actually at each other's throats. So Argo Tulik is one of the original Disco Elysium writers. He's also the person responsible for... Sorry, it's not him. It's his partner, Dora. Where's their name? Dora Klinzik is responsible for Disco Elysium's Final Cut, which is the one that has all the voice work in it. This is obviously very, very good. It's probably the one most of you know. Anyway, he co-founded Summer Eternal after he had resigned from Zaum earlier this year. Zaum are the people who own the Disco Elysium rights and were the original developers of Disco Elysium. And at the time, he said he resigned because he assumed he was about to be fired anyway. So he resigned before there could be a disciplinary hearing during which he expected to be terminated. And he alleged this is because he spoke up in favor of people working on the games and how they had been kind of sidelined and kind of shit on by management in Zaum, and that Zaum were doing this hostile takeover kind of thing. There's a whole documentary video from People Make Games talking about the Disco Elysium thing. And he basically believes that he was about to be terminated as a reprisal for appearing and talking in that documentary. Anyway, if he happened to have survived that meeting, he's assumed they'd be trying to find another way to get rid of him. Anyway, so he left. So Dark Math Games and Longdew Games are 2 other studios that announced they were making Disco Elysium spiritual successors last month. They're London-based and also comprised of various former staff members who worked on Disco Elysium. These were both created by Riaz Mullah, so both studios are founded by the same guy, which is a bit weird. There's a lot of weird shit going on with Disco Elysium anyway. So he founded Longdew. He founded Longdew with his company Cogrammer, and then he's a pretty sizable investor in Dark Math. So he technically doesn't own Dark Math, but he does own Longdew instead. And as it would turn out, Tulik and Dora Klinzik have both worked for Cogrammer and Dark Math before they founded Summer Eternal. So there's a lot of weird, like, common bedfellows going on here. They've worked on all 3 studios, left 2 of them to found their own one, and it's... what the fuck's going on? Anyway, why isn't Tulik still there? Why did he make his own studio and so on? He resigned from Cogrammer, and Dark Math declined to renew his contract. Dark Math is helmed by Kara Kender. Kara Kender is an early investor in Zaum, again, original Disco Elysium person showing up again. Was executive producer on Disco Elysium. It's possible they didn't get along. A bitter legal dispute is still kind of ongoing between Kender and Zaum. Zaum say it's done and it's over. Kender says no, it's not. But it's basically over who actually owns Disco Elysium. As far as the court is concerned, Zaum own it. There's some dispute on how Ilmar Kompas got all of the money together to buy all of the shares for Zaum, and it's alleged that there's some illegal dealings going on there as well. That court case is ongoing, etc., etc. It's all pretty gross. Anyway, Dark Math under Kara Kender are going to be releasing a game called Triple X Night Shift. There is a trailer for that out. It is very Disco Elysium. It's almost the exact opening of the original Disco Elysium. Continuing on with that, Longdew, which is this Riaz Mullah person, they don't have a name for their game yet, but it is going to be a psychological RPG, again, like Disco Elysium. Is also embroiled in a war of words with Tulik that has spilled out into the public domain, so this had been going on behind the scenes for a while. When Tulik revealed that legal action had been taken against him by Zaum, and against Klinzik by Riaz Mulah's programmer. So this is two people, one of whom it was his former employer, a second of whom was his most recent employer, taking legal action against him because of Disco Elysium shit. He's not looking in a great place here, but we'll see later on. It might just be, he really might be the unluckiest man in the world. It's possible, who knows. Anyway, Cogrammer successfully obtained an injunction in the Business and Property Courts of England and Wales on the basis of breach of contract, which prevented Argo and Dora from working on anything at Summer Eternal until April of 2025. So while they have announced they're going to be doing a Disco Elysium follow-up kind of thing, they're basically blocked from doing anything for 6 months. How a court was allowed to say that, I don't know. We don't know the ins and outs of what the contract was. All we really have are Argo Tulik's words about it, and he basically alleged that the contract was requiring for him to sign non-competes and NDAs and that kind of stuff, and he basically alleges that the contract itself isn't legal. The injunction shouldn't have gone ahead, but it has gone ahead anyway. Tulik accused Zaum, former employee, of making baseless legal threats against him and for collaborating with Mulah to do this whole Summer Eternal thing. So again, he's alleging that there's some conspiracy between Riaz Mulah and his former employer Zaum over Disco Elysium. We already know Riaz has 2 separate studios he's working with to work with Disco Elysium's successor. He's not exactly squeaky clean here. Anyway, I never wanted to make Disco again, but the absurdity of someone completely unrelated to Disco being granted the protection of the High Court in their spiritual successor pursuit is not lost on me. That's what Tulik told IGN when they reached out. So, what the fuck's going on? So, try to put it into like a timeline kind of thing. Tulik was working for Cogrammer. These are the people behind Longdu. As a consultant on Longdu's game, this is the Riaz Mulah person. This is the company he has actually founded, not the one he's just heavily invested in. Cogrammer tells IGN that they offered to release Tulik and Klinzik from contractual restrictions that would block them from working for another studio, one of their own, for a 6-month period. They offered to buy them out of it. Tulik and Klinzik declined to sign the release contract, so from Cogrammer's side of things, you never signed the contract that released you, so you're still under the non-compete clauses of your original contract, etc., etc. Tulik says, we don't work for you anymore, so fuck off. But anyway, who knows? Who knows how that works in law? How much... It's surprising how many labor contracts, the way they're written, it sounds like they're like legally binding, and how many of them are just straight up not legally binding in any way whatsoever. You never really know until you try to put it to the test. Anyway, soon after, Tulik and Klinzik announced Summer Eternal, revealed plans to develop a new game on the same day that Longdu and Darkmath announced their project. This is what led to the injunction. So they're essentially blocked from working on anything Disco Elysium related, at least, or adjacent, or spiritual successors, or that kind of thing. It seems overly broad, which is why I would kind of question the court's injunction there. Anyway, there's a fairly lengthy response here from Riaz Mulah talking about Argo Tulik and bringing things out into the public. He wanted to settle matters amicably. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. Zaum is no way involved in this legal action. Again, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. We don't know. Right, so what is going on with Zaum? If we want to go back a couple of years on the whole Disco Elysium thing, they forced out the original creative team. It was a hostile takeover. It's alleged that it was an illegal hostile takeover, that the money they got from was actually their own money. They embezzled Zaum's own money to buy out shares to get a controlling interest so they could force people out of it and essentially own the IP. That lawsuit was dropped, mostly due to not having the money to pursue it rather than any other reason. Anyway, Zaum alleges that the reason they've taken this most recent lawsuit is that Argo Tulik has a working copy of Disco Elysium 2, or at least 20 minutes of a sort of proof of concept kind of thing, and he had been showing it off. He says, no, he hasn't. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, Tulik denies the accusation, but there is allegedly a USB stick containing a playable 20-minute build. Again, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. We really don't know. Anyway, it's about to get even weirder, if you can imagine it. So Tulik and Klinzik, when they were working with Cogrammer, were hired out as consultants on Dark Math, because remember, Riaz Mula is a heavy investor in that, so it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be too strange for him to have people from another company he owns come in and work on it, except they're working on competing games. That's weird. Anyway, so he had them come in, game director, narrative director for Triple X Night Shift. That contract was not renewed, as we talked at the top of this report. So they left the company, then went to go work back for Cogrammer again. Then the contract was terminated due to creative differences. So there's a lot of ferrying of Argo and Dora around, and kind of treating them not great. But we're only really getting like he said, she said out of these kind of things. We don't really know what's happening. Anyway, Tulik accused Caro Kender, this is a Dark Math person, of showing naked photos of his own ex-wife to him and other staff. This him being Caro Kender's own wife, of showing naked photos to him and staff. Right? Okay, we're getting a bit salacious now. Kender denies that he did any of that. He denies that his wife was naked, or his ex-wife. It was his ex-wife at the time too, so there's no way she agreed to allow him to show off these photos. I would imagine. But anyway, we never got confirmation if this was consensual or not. I find it unlikely, but whatever. He denies that she was naked in the photo. He doesn't deny that he showed the photos, but he denies that she was naked. He alleges that she was wearing a swimsuit or had some other clothing on or what have you. So now it's what is your definition of naked? Yes. If you're wearing nothing but socks, are you naked? I'd argue you're more naked than actually being naked if you're wearing socks. But like, if you're only wearing underpants, are you naked or not? Like, technically no, but on the other, you're arguing semantics here. Either way, you were showing inappropriate photos to staff, essentially, non-consensual photos in that kind of case. Again, he's not saying that she was, or he's not saying that he didn't show the photos. Like, he's not pushing back on that part. So he definitely did show them. He's just saying that she wasn't, technically naked. Now, we don't know who Caro Kender's ex-wife is. Does go into in the report. We don't know if she was a model and these were like promotional shots or something, like advertisement thing, or were these personal photos taken while they were a couple. Again, we don't know. Why was he doing this in the first place? Caro allegedly wanted to use these photos to act as a real-life inspiration for certain characters in Triple X Night Shift. Triple X Night Shift, it does kind of give the idea that your character is an undercover prostitute. So there's some other kind of gross things going on here. Now, it's not clear if he wanted to use the photos for inspiration for the main character or for other characters, but this isn't a good look either way. Anyway, moving on. That's why he left, or this is alleged why the contract wasn't renewed. They had a disagreement. They couldn't come to an understanding behind it. Anyway, Dark Math is not commenting on the past. Okay, so they reached out to say no comment, effectively. Hey, if you're coming to get us for a comment, no comment. Okay. But wait, there's more. What happened to the other Disco Elysium head writers? Well, they also have their own studio called Red Info. So this is one of the other kind of main creative forces behind Disco Elysium, Robert Kurvitz and Alexander Rostov, who are essentially the primary writers, built up the kind of pen and paper RPG that Disco Elysium is built off of, built up a lot of the worlds, lore and that kind of thing. They're pretty heavy into Disco Elysium. They're reportedly making a new game of their own. It's not clear if it's a Disco Elysium successor or if it's some other thing. They're being funded by NetEase. They kind of stayed in the background of this kind of thing. But there is technically now like 4 different studios trying to make a Disco Elysium follow-up. And you know who's not trying to make a Disco Elysium follow-up? Fucking Zaum themselves. The guys who own the IP, they're just fucking sitting on it and doing nothing with it. After spending all that money to acquire it, and now they're actually just not doing anything with it, it's kind of frustrating. Anyway, Status as it stands now is Tulik and Klinzik with their Summer Eternal studio that they founded themselves. So they're not, they're not working for anybody. This is their own thing. But they are facing a injunction that essentially means they can't work on it for the next 6 months. They left 3 studios under less than ideal circumstances just this year. Former colleagues describe both of them as hugely talented, but at times difficult to work with. And some former PC gamers and a couple of other interviews have basically said that they were thoughtful, professional collaborators during their time at Zaum. So I would imagine, yes, he probably is difficult to work with, considering he's had to leave a bunch of different studios and so on. But there's a lot of other players who have been kind of shitty in the background before all of this kind of thing going on, so this isn't over. The whole, I mean, it's sort of like life imitates art, art imitates life with Disco Elysium, because Disco Elysium also has a bunch of warring philosophies, all within the main character, all kind of vying for who should come out on top kind of thing. It's all very philosophic and experiential and existential kind of thing. It kind of almost makes sense that the development of it is going the same direction, but it's extremely frustrating to have these kind of just petty battles between people, and you could all have just gotten along and made another one, but who knows? You might get 5 Disco Elysiums instead. 5 Disco Elysium 2s. Disco Elysium 2, Disco Elysium B, Disco Elysium colon the second one. Just, all these fucking sequels are going to be called. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so PlayStation Portal is getting a cloud streaming beta today. So if you're a PS Plus Premium member, there are about 120 games you can play now on the PS Portal. You won't need a PlayStation 5 or PlayStation 4 to do so. So up until now, the PlayStation Portal relied on you also owning a console, and also relied on that console being on the same Wi-Fi network as the PlayStation Portal. And it's why I kind of argue that who the fuck is this product for? But apparently it's selling really well. Anyway, so the idea is that when you have the PlayStation Portal, you effectively have a Switch version of PlayStation. You can't dock it or anything, and it doesn't do any processing on its own. But you can effectively have a handheld PlayStation 5 if you have one, or if you already own a PlayStation 5. Again, not entirely sure who this is for, but anyway, PlayStation Plus Premium members will be able to play a selection of 120 PS5 games. There's a couple of lists of them here: Dave the Diver, Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man, Monster Hunter, a couple of other things. They are limited to the PlayStation 5 games themselves, so there's no PS3 or PS4 games, even though you can stream them on the PlayStation 5 console itself. You can't stream them to the PlayStation Portal for whatever reason. They don't have the hardware set up for it or whatever. It's not clear if this will change. I imagine it will, but as far as the beta is concerned, you're restricted to just PS5 games. Here's all the territories it's currently available in, which is a lot. It's not quite all of them, but it's quite a few. There I am. Anyway, so talking about these kind of streaming game things. Anyway, I'm going to move on because Xbox is doing the same thing. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscribers can now stream select games from their own library via cloud gaming. So Xbox is doing effectively the same thing. 5 years after announcing the feature would be a thing, that's finally got off their arse and decided to do it. So Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, that's the most expensive tier. And for comparison's sake, the PlayStation Premium, PlayStation Plus Premium, is the highest PlayStation Plus tier. So this is the people who are all in on the kind of thing, I suppose. They'll be able to play select games that they already own outside the Xbox Game Pass library via cloud streaming. Excuse me. So this isn't necessarily all of the games that are on Xbox Game Pass. It is actually specifically the games that you already own yourself. But even then, it's a pretty small number of them. It's only about 50 games that are currently compatible with the system. They are planning to expand it, but right now it's just 50. This library of cloud playable titles will continue to grow as you work with our partners around the world. So there's a couple of pretty big ones like Baldur's Gate, Cyberpunk, Star Wars. There's a couple of pretty decent indies are in there. Balatro, Animal Well, Hades. Phasmophobia would be an interesting one to try to do through cloud streaming. In fact, a lot of these would be kind of interesting to see because Hades is a very twitchy game, and the kind of lag and latency you're going to get over streaming. Can't imagine that will be a fun game. Anyway, what devices can you use this on? TVs and any browsers that are supported on your smartphone, your tablet, that kind of thing. As well as the Meta Quest headset randomly. That's a weird one to pull out, but okay. But rather hilariously, not the Xbox console. Like, the console itself can't do this, but practically everything else can. Anyway, there's a big list of the games. I mean, they're all pretty decent games, but it is only 50, you know, it's not exactly a massive market, and I think all of them are current gen. I'm trying to see now if any of these are, like, previous gen. Now, I know technically, like, Final Fantasy is the oldest game of all time, but these are specifically the Pixel remasters, which are current gen. Yeah, I think they're all current gen, or at the very least, previous. They're either Xbox One or Xbox Series. Anyway, so that's Xbox and PlayStation getting in on the cloud streaming game thing. I think it's important to point out that Nintendo also have been doing it for a long time. And not only that, Sony had also been doing it for a long time before that as well, kind of pushing this out as a new thing. It's not really new. And the other thing is, it's shit. Like, the cloud version of any game on Nintendo Switch is awful. Like, I don't think there's any single one that runs well. Unless you are literally in the middle of Silicon Valley in the US, this will not work particularly great. And is definitely not a replacement for having dedicated hardware attached to your TV. Like, this is clearly the way they want to go because it gives the platform holders significantly more power and leverage over the product, the games. Right now, you could still buy a CD or a DVD or a Blu-ray or whatever of the game from secondhand stores and that kind of thing. They're obviously trying to phase that out with digital stores and trying to make everything all digital because it gives them more control over it. But if they're also controlling the platform it runs on, say Xbox stop making the Xbox console because it really doesn't make them a whole lot of money anymore. Now the only place you can play Xbox games would be through the Xbox cloud thing, through your TV, through your browser on your phone, through the Meta headset for some fucking reason, or through whatever app sits on your PC or sits on Nintendo Switch maybe or something like that. But you'd also be buying those games through Microsoft. I could see the EU possibly forcing a third-party store for these kind of things, but they're not going to do it quickly. They're not exactly fast about this kind of thing. So you're still going to get market dominance from Microsoft for about 10 years, maybe. Sony are obviously trying to do the same thing, trying to get you into the PlayStation Plus subscription. You can cloud stream a bunch of games. That's why they're kind of really lagging behind on getting PS3 emulation, that kind of thing as well, because it forces you to use their streaming service. Because that's currently the only way to legitimately play a PS3 game now is through Sony's streaming service. Or if you actually own a currently working PS3, which would be a marvel of technology, to be honest. Incredible preservation on your end if you somehow managed to have that still running. Anyway, this does make games more accessible to people, and I do get that that is a good thing. And the subscription services also reduce the amount of money you need to invest into it, because buying a game outright now is like $70, €70, £70, because exchange rates aren't a thing, apparently. And going in on a subscription means not that, substantially less than you having to spend all that money. but it also locks down the industry. You know, it's how many players. I don't mean like video game players. I mean like how many entities have power in the industry. $70 is crazy expensive, and it's the standard price. It's not even the full price. That's the annoying thing. That's the James Stephanie Sterling puts it. That's the shell price for the game. You know, if you want the full content, it's an extra $20 for the deluxe edition, and an extra $40 for the master edition, and an extra whatever for the ultra mega fuck you edition, and so on. You know, it ends up being like $120 for the full thing. Some stores games are 80. Yeah, I think Returnal. I think when I got Returnal, it was $80 or €80 or whatever. I think the Demon's Souls remake was the same. They were trying to push things that are like straight up PS5 exclusive and it can't be played anywhere else. Sony obviously gets away with it because they put out so few games. People think, oh, I'm only going to spend this like once this year. And you can kind of get away with it with Call of Duty because, again, the people who play Call of Duty effectively only play Call of Duty. So it's the one-time expense you can get away with. But people like me who try to play every game ever made as it comes out, you know, if I did that, I'd be so fucking massively in debt. I do have to pick what games I actually go all in on, and ones I have to stream and just try to get a sense of what the game plays like, and then the ones that maybe they have a demo, something, maybe that's good. Paying for COD, I know. It is on Game Pass, I suppose, technically, but then they didn't raise the price of it, but they got rid of the $1 Game Pass trial thing just before COD came out. Anyway, cloud streaming, it's good in some ways, it's not so great for the health of the industry overall, IMO. Moving on. Layoffs are continuing. Unknown 9 developer Reflector Entertainment lays off 18% of its staff. So, Reflector Entertainment are the developer behind Unknown 9 Awakening, which came out. I know this might surprise a lot of you. It did actually come out. It's like no marketing done for it, or what marketing was done was very weird. But it's been out for like a month. Anyway, so they've laid off an unknown number. It's not unknown anymore. It's 18%. 1 month after the launch of its debut title. It actually has nothing to do with the performance of the game, which is somewhat frustrating. It's frustrating in one way and refreshing in another way, in that they didn't actually say, or didn't use it as an excuse to lay them off. They're like, no, we were always going to do this. It doesn't matter how well the game did. We were planning to lay these people off anyway, regardless. I'm glad COD is on Game Pass now. I'd never pay for them again after that. I mean, there's one benefit in that you know Bobby Kotick isn't getting that money anymore. That's the only good thing. It's still going to Activision, which isn't great, but at least Bobby isn't getting it anymore, so that's one thing. So the people who got laid off, QA, marketing, art and narrative, essentially all the people you don't need once the game has launched. Because you're not going to need art and narrative people to fix bugs. You will need QA to fix bugs, so getting rid of them was a huge mistake. And marketing, you sold the game now. Why would you need marketing anymore? It's not like you need to remind people about the game every now and then to maybe boost some sales or let them know there's a discount or... No, why would I do that? That's dumb. Why would I keep art and narrative around? It's not like we want to flesh the game out with a sequel or something. Why would I do that anyway? They let go of that part of the team. Unknown 9 Awakening was meant to be the first in a series of action-adventure games with a transmedia universe. Oh, I hate hearing that because it always means it's not going to happen. Never announce that it's a transmedia thing. Just do it. If you announce it, it won't happen. It's like a superstition that actually always comes true. Anyway, there are a bunch of other things based around the Unknown 9 series. There's some novels, there's some comic books, there's apparently a podcast drama thing, which I haven't heard any of. So, I mean, it's possible having marketing laid off might actually be for their performance, who knows? Anyway, released to mixed reviews. It's not clear how well it's sold. An update on this article basically said that they confirmed how many people have been let go. It's effectively a sixth of the company. The decision was down to entering a new phase of development and had nothing to do with the performance of the game. the new phase of development being bug fixing and that kind of thing. So you definitely need QA for that. There's an argument that you don't necessarily need the art and narrative people for it, but it's still a shitty way to do it. Anyway, last thing we're going to look at, Valve sets new guidelines for devs selling season passes on Steam. So this is actually pretty good, and I think this is pretty good for transparency and also trying to get rid of like the really bad marketing practice of saying, hey, here's a season pass, there's nothing in it, we don't know what it's going to be or when it's coming out, but buy it anyway. So that's essentially what Steam or what Valve is trying to do here, is to basically say, yeah, you can't do that anymore. You need to tell people what's going to be in the season pass and when they're going to get it. Otherwise, you can't sell it. So new rules have been established for developers using Steam. If you're attempting to sell the season pass for your game, you'll have to offer a season pass as promising future content. You basically can't say that anymore. If you aren't ready to clearly communicate about the content included in each DLC and when it will be ready for launch, you shouldn't offer a season pass, and in fact you will not be allowed to offer a season pass. This will be distinct from a battle pass, which is also a shitty industry practice that we're doing, but they're not tackling that. It's mostly alleged that in battle passes, they're already laying out what's expected to be appearing in the battle pass, so you don't need to take this tack with them. But there have definitely been developers who would sell the game, sell a season pass along with it, with a vague idea that, yeah, there's DLC coming at some point. Maybe, eventually, who knows. And if you buy the season pass, you'll get it for cheap. Ish. Whenever it comes out, maybe. Possibly. If you're still playing the game. If we're still supporting it. Maybe you just throw this money in a hole and nothing happens. You won't know unless you buy our season pass. So as part of the new guidelines, season pass listings must now include a complete list of what will be bundled in, expected release dates for each piece of the content, and the listing must have some kind of release date window. So you can give it like a winter 2025, quarter 2 2026, whatever. But you need to give some kind of release date. So you might think, release dates slip. Video games are certainly known for getting delayed and so on. DLC would be no different. Valve do give you you can delay it up to 3 months, but only that one off delay. If you have to delay it again, then you have to delist the season pass. And if Valve are forced to delist it by following these rules, they will refund players. So you're gonna be losing that money. And if Valve are forced to refund things, they're gonna get their money back from the developer or the publisher themselves. So Valve warned that if the release date has been missed, they will start refunding players. They will delist it. This will hurt you. This will cost you a lot of money. Season passes for already released games must have at least one DLC that is already out. So you might be seeing a lot of season passes suddenly delisted from Steam soon. Anyway, we're gonna leave Stalker to loop in the background. Anyway, that is your news for the 18th to the 23rd of November 2024. We saw some interesting things from the Mix showcase, a lot of indie games. Vast majority of them we won't be seeing until next year. But there were a handful that are coming out in December at some stage. And a lot of them have demos available too if you wanted to check them out. Also, that wasn't all of the games shown at that showcase. As I said, there were 50 games, 50 plus. It was about almost a 3-hour live stream. A lot of games I skipped over. Those were just a handful of games that I quite like the look of. No worries, Banana. Thanks for keeping me company. We also saw a couple of updates outside of that. Some ports making their way over to PlayStation and Loreline. The Laser Eyes was a very good puzzle game I played this year, maybe? Question mark. I'm not sure. It might have been last year. What is time? Who knows? We played that on PC. I thought it was really good. It's making the jump to PlayStation now. The Xbox Game Pass refresh for the middle of November is pretty good. Stalker 2, Nine Sols. Two big standouts there. They're both very good games. Or Nine Sols is very good. Stalker 2 is a Marmite. You either like it or you don't like it kind of thing. Industry bullshit wise, the Disco Elysium saga continues to be as complicated and ridiculous as the game itself. I'm not sure we'll ever see the end of this drama. Maybe we will. But hey, we're getting like 5 new spiritual successors, so there might be something good coming out of it. Sony and Xbox again making further pushes into the cloud streaming. It still is not a proven technology to me. Trying to do this in Ireland, for instance, it's just don't bother. Unless you're sitting in the middle of the city, don't bother. The speeds here, the infrastructure for it is just not there. And Ireland is not alone in that. Lots of parts of Europe just don't have that kind of internet infrastructure. Lots of parts of the US don't have that kind of internet infrastructure. So it's not really a long-running technology that's going to work out for them, I think. They're still quite a few years off and would require a fairly significant investment in government infrastructure that I'm not sure private enterprise has the stomach to do. So, I don't know. I don't really see it going anywhere unless they decide to suddenly become socialist. It's not really something I see Strauss Zelnick getting on board with, or Satya Nadella, or anyone else. Anyway, there was no community stuff this time around. Valve's stance on season passes is a little bit late, but it's welcome. Hopefully more stores take the same approach. Anyway, what's going to be happening next week? I'm still making sure the PC works. So I know streams have been not happening lately. It is winter, which means seasonal affective disorder is in full swing with me. The depression is spiking most days. Or the anxiety, rather. The depression doesn't spike, the anxiety spikes. We will try to get back to Hollow Body soon. System Shock, the port is now mostly stable on PlayStation, so we'll probably revive that playthrough at some point. And I do want to get back to our Final Fantasy and Resident Evil series playthroughs, which have been kind of on hiatus for the stream itself has been on hiatus for a good while. Other than this weekly news thing that I don't want to miss a week, I guess. I'm trying to make this year be no missed weeks for the weekly news recap, and so far it's working. I don't think I've missed a week yet this year. Almost. The PC almost didn't want to do it this time, so I know it's trying. It's giving me the final boss, I guess, before the end of the year. Will I just fall over and break at some point? Who knows? So if the PC is behaving itself and the game capture software is all working okay, and I've installed and reinstalled all the plugins and shit that I use, and I haven't forgotten any, which I probably have. I will probably have to rewatch this VOD to make sure things worked out okay, because I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many things are working. Anyway, we'll see, is what I'm saying. So I'm not going to give you guys a schedule for this week because I don't know what's going to be happening. So keep an eye out. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks, Banana, for keeping me company. If you want to catch up on previous entries in the weekly news recap, you can find all the VODs over on YouTube, Doom Train 5. I am on Blue Sky now that everybody is moving. I was there first. Well, not first, but I was there early-ish, so I can be hipster about it. But yeah, I was on Blue Sky for a while, I forgot I was on it, but I was on it. I did have an account that I completely forgot I had, and I tried to join it again. It says, you already have this account. I was like, oh, okay. Anyway, excuse me. I'm over there. Discord, link in the description. I'm still on Twitter as well, but I'll probably jump ship at some point soon. Anyway, I'm going to head off. Have a good rest of your day, and hopefully see you at some stage next week. All right. Bye.